Progress.
Is average velocity. Before we talk about that, just let me know, and briefly I want to discuss, I want to ask you some concepts. So what is displacement? It must have been known to you. Displacement. What is displacement and what is velocity? Then we'll talk about average velocity. Will someone tell me what displacement is? All right, displacement call. What is displacement? Displacement is answer. What is displacement? On the contrary, many would be saying displacement is shortest distance. Shortest distance, which is an absolutely wrong answer. Displacement, shortest distance no way. Displacement is not the shortest distance. Found displacement. The point the initial point I, the initial point I, but initial point I achi, and you move color and reach this final point L. And do the path I point. Out of path this is path 1, this is path 2. You take one more path, this is path 3. The initial to final point पहुंचे, we take 3 different paths, 1, 2, and 3. For all these paths, should I say displacement vector का कौन होगा समान होगा? So what is displacement vector? Displacement vector is a vector connecting initial point of the journey with the final point. Initial to final point रे join करिया वाला vector टा होची displacement vector. Correct? This is the displacement vector. This one is the displacement vector, which is denoted by what? S vector. What is the name? S vector. Correct? But alternative way to talk about displacement vector, what is that? Change in position vector. Displacement vector is also defined as a change in position vector. Called the change in position vector. Please note down everyone. Displacement vector called change in the position vector when a particle moves from one point to another. When a particle moves from one point to another, displacement vector is a change in the position vector. Correct? So what is position vector? Question as you, sir, position vector ta kaun? The position vector. So what is position vector? So what is position vector? Can anyone tell me? Position vector kaun? What is position vector? Position vector define kariya bhai. पढ़ाई दियो ना full class. I'm just quickly I'm recapping all those things. And I know दरकार भाई. Position vector कौन है? Displacement vector कौन है? तापर हम जान पारे velocity कौन है? Acceleration कौन है? So position vector कौन है? Position vector of any particle define करें अभी हम कौन देखा हमारा particle होता है particle P. तो define करें हम कौन दरकार? हम को एक coordinate system दरकार. This is our coordinate system. This is x-axis. This is y-axis. The coordinate system रे position vector define करें आप मेरे particle टा idea अच्छी. What will do is will take this is the origin. Origin को भाई join कर दिया. You join the origin with the point. Join the origin with the point. Correct? And position vector is nothing but the vector connecting origin with the given point. Position vector is nothing but the vector connecting the origin with the given point. Origin ru point P पर जो vector टा connect करते, that is nothing but what? The position vector denoted by R vector. This is the position vector denoted by R vector. This is position vector. Am I clear? Correct? तो पोजीशन वेक्टर को हमें कोऑर्डिनेट टर्म्स रे x और y कोऑर्डिनेट टर्म में डिनोट कर बेरो. How we can denote the position vector in terms of x and y coordinates? Will someone tell me? Position vector को x और y coordinate के डिनोट करियो. What is x coordinate? If I ask you what is x coordinate or y coordinate, will someone tell me? Please participate in the class. Interaction is very important. Interaction is very important here. Interaction बिना interaction पाठ पढ़ावनी. X coordinate कौन? X coordinate माने ଗୋଟେ particle ଗୋଟେ coordinate system द्वारा ଅଛି ଏଟା x axis ଏଟା y axis. So in that, if I ask you a particle has x coordinate x, what do you mean by that? X coordinate माने displacement along y axis. Along x axis, not y axis, my mistake. Displacement along x axis. Displacement along x axis. Displacement along x axis is the x coordinate. Or conversely, I can say the perpendicular distance from the y axis. Perpendicular distance from y axis. Because both these things are known as the x coordinate. For a particular chimney coil x coordinate कहते हैं 2. I mean देखा ना 2, 3. हम देखा ना तमारे first डाला x coordinate, second डाला y coordinate. 2, 3 में कोई ले तमारे x coordinate कहते हैं 2. That means what? That means if I drop a perpendicular from P onto the y axis, y के perpendicular में टानी हुआ, the perpendicular length कहते हैं हुआ, this length will be 2 meter. length कहते हैं 2. So y coordinate कौन होगा? Similarly, y coordinate here, y coordinate is what? 3. It is y. This is x. The x coordinate is 2, y coordinate is 3. So y coordinate कौन होगा? Y coordinate is what? Perpendicular distance from x axis. X coordinate is perpendicular distance from y axis. X coordinate माने distance from y. So y coordinate माने कौन होगा? Distance from x. So x axis perpendicular टानी हुई हमती. So perpendicular drop करियो x को. So this will be what? 3. So this is the y coordinate. Am I clear? So these are x and y coordinates. But if position vector achhi r, if there is a position vector r, a particle period position vector hoji r, how can I represent r in terms of 2 and 3? Are you getting my question? Question is particle period x coordinate is 2, y coordinate is 3, and the position vector r. How do I represent r in terms of 2 and 3? Can you go r vector है position vector r है magnitude of position vector प्रति vector magnitude दिबो ताले magnitude of position vector कोन होला एटी particle अछि एटा होला position vector. This is the position vector. ताले मुझे magnitude of position vector कोन magnitude of position vector is shortest distance. No, distance is always a scalar. So the magnitude of position vector called magnitude of position vector length distance between the origin and this. Yes, tell me. Correct. So this is suppose r magnitude of position vector कौन ले r ले बुझो जो था magnitude of position vector कौन ले r ले correct. এটা তুমি r নিলে magnitude of position vector এটা r নিলে let me assume this angle to be theta. Let me assume this angle to be theta. ये angle वाला theta मुझे लगा था angle वाला theta है मतलब perpendicular drop करो भाई और x axis perpendicular drop कर ले कल ये चीज़ कौन होगा मगर हम general in general कहली यार x coordinate वाला x y coordinate वाला y कल एटा कौन होगा एटा y नहीं distance from x axis is y and distance from y axis is, this is y axis is x. Am I clear? मुझे लगा था distance from y is x, so this will be x coordinate, and distance from x is y, this will be y coordinate. Clear to everyone? Just let me know in the chat. Everyone is clear on this? Correct? So my question is, you are vector R vector diagram in terms of the x and y coordinates. For right R, look at the right angle triangle, OPM triangle in the triangle OPM, in the triangle OPM, what you can say, cos theta is x by r. Cos theta is how much? X by r. So x कहते हैं r cos theta. So x कहते हैं r cos theta. So what is x here? What is x here? If this is a vector r, the vector r, just everyone let me know, you know about the resolution of vectors? Audio problem. Am I audible properly? समझो सुनाओ नहीं ठीक से? Please let me know in the chat box. Audibility नहीं कितनी? Am I audible properly? Everyone? Okay, okay. No. Saroj Naik, please disconnect and then again reconnect. Disconnect and then reconnect. All clear now? Okay, thank you. So this is vector R. Now I want to know from all of you, you know about vector resolution. Is vector resolution already discussed? A resolution of vector into components. Everybody knows this? Vector resolution into components. Raj here also? Yes? Please let me know. Raj, vector resolution? But vector को component केम बाहर करेगा? How to find the component of vector? मन vector अच्छी. This is a vector A. And out of a line given direction दीजिए, vector direction दीजिए. Now I draw another line. Just understand this one very important concept. A very important concept. Put a line for x-axis ଆମେ କାଢିଦେଲେ. Let's say ଆମେ କହିଲେ ଏଟା x-axis. X-axis ଟା କଣ କରୁଛି? X-axis ଟା let's say vector ସହିତ angle theta କରୁଛି. ଏଟା ଗୋଟେ vector A ଅଛି, ଗୋଟେ direction ଅଛି, ଗୋଟେ magnitude ଅଛି. Correct? Magnitude ମାନେ କଣ? Length of this line is the magnitude. Length of the line is the magnitude. Length of the line is the magnitude. And the direction is what? Direction is making this angle theta with the x-axis. Correct? तामान हमको ये vector magnitude कहते हैं. Magnitude होची A. खाली मुझे लिखिले that represents the magnitude of the vector. राउंड नहीं ଗୋଟେ vector ଅଛି A vector. मतलब उस arrow mark दो ना complete vector. खाली लिखने magnitude of the vector. Magnitude माने कौन? Length. Correct? The length of the vector will be how much A? Correct? Magnitude A, length is A. And the vector length is A, magnitude is A, angle is theta goes x-axis. So now tell me, what is the component of the vector A? Component, what I'm asking, component of vector A along x-axis will be how much? Please answer everyone. Component of the vector A along x-axis is how much? And how to find that? Component of the vector A along x-axis is how much and how to find that? Yes, our answers. Component of the vector A along x-axis. It will be A cos theta. This is the direction of the given vector. This is the given vector. And we have to find the component of this vector along this direction. Correct? So what you have to do is you have to drop a perpendicular from the tip of the vector onto the given line. OX along the x-axis along the component. So कौन करेगा vector at tip को perpendicular drop करेगा till the what the x-axis means the direction along which you want to find the component. X-axis along this is the direction along which you want to find the component. So drop kar le, that means we are completing a right angle triangle. Go to right angle triangle complete OPM. Then this right angle triangle, I'll say cos theta will be equal to OM upon A, isn't it? Cos theta is OM upon A. So OM is what? OM is A cos theta. So what is OM? OM is the base of the triangle. The base of the triangle after dropping the perpendicular from the tip of the vector. Vector lie down, vector tip from perpendicular drop kar le. We constitute a right angle triangle. So in the right angle triangle, जो base ta banala, the base is along the x-axis. Everyone listen carefully. This is a very, very important thing. The base डाला along the x-axis. X-axis ta kaun? X-axis which is the direction along which जो direction है आपको component दरकार. Correct? The direction along which we want the component, that is x-axis. So जो direction दरकार सही direction को हमें perpendicular drop कर ले. वो right angle triangle वाला, right angle triangle में हम apply कर ले cos theta. Cos theta is based by hypotenuse. Correct? Adjacent side by hypotenuse, that is OM by A. So OM कहता हुआ A cos theta. So you can see here, if the magnitude of the vector, এটা magnitude of the vector, isn't it? A is magnitude of vector A. And what is theta? Theta is the angle, but in the direction of vector direction is this. And this is what? This is the direction in which you want the component. Vector direction दीजिएगा, and this is the direction. A direction हम component दरकार. हमें the component is how much? A into cos of theta. Suppose this theta is 60 degree. Theta is 60. Then if I ask you, what is the magnitude of the component? What is the magnitude of the component along x-axis? Please answer. I want answers from everyone. Here a component कितना हुआ along the x-axis? Everyone, please answer. I hope this is clear to everyone. Finding the component of the resolution of vector is one of the building blocks of physics. If you do not know this, you cannot solve anything else. Correct? This angle will be 60. Simple, but A cos 60, A cos 60, cos 60 is how much? That is half. So A by 2. Correct? So now if I tell you that find the component of the vector A in vector dachi, okay, vector component bar kara along y-axis. Along y-axis. So y-axis side the vector is making how much angle? If this angle is theta, then this angle will be 90 minus theta. No, 90 minus theta. So when this angle was theta, we'll component कितना होता है? A cos theta, A into cos of theta. Apply the same thing here. What will A into cos of 90 minus theta? Cos of whatever is the angle between the vector और जो direction of component दरकार. ताऊ जो angle था वो तार cos नवा. And we'll multiply that with the magnitude of the vector. मुझे लगा था. So A into cos of 90 minus theta will be A sin theta. Is that clear? A sin theta, correct? So this is y-axis. Theta, x is the angle. Theta is the angle made by vector. Theta is the angle made by vector with x-axis. The x is the angle theta la, the x along the component कितना ला? A cos theta. Y along the component कितना ला? A sin theta. Now you must be aware of the idea of unit vectors. What is unit vector? What is unit vector? Can anyone tell me what is unit vector? Chat Asuni. So somebody please let me know what is unit vector. Unit vector is a vector Unit vector is a vector having, yes, magnitude is 1. Yes, very good. A vector having unit magnitude. So you must have heard about I cap, J cap, and K cap. What I cap is unit vector. What I cap is what J cap is what K cap is. What is what are these I, J, K? I cap, J cap, K cap are special class of unit vectors. Unit vector can be along any direction. Unit vector किसी direction नहीं. The only criteria for a vector को unit vector को only one criteria, the magnitude should be 1. So what is IJK? IJK are special class of unit vectors. Special class. Special category. Yeah. It is special class of unit vector which are respectively along x-axis. I cap is unit vector along x-axis. J cap is unit vector along y-axis. And K cap is unit vector along z-axis. Hope this is clear to everyone. Unit vector doesn't have any specified direction. Unit vector means the magnitude is 1. Unit vector means magnitude is 1. Correct? But what is IJK? Generally, it is a misconception. Misconception is that unit vector means I cap, J cap, K cap. It is not so. Unit vector means any direction is possible. Only one criteria. Magnitude is 1 unit. 1. So I cap the I cap which unit vector that is x-axis along the way. That will be given a special name. I cap. Y-axis along the way. Tara na J cap. Z-axis along the way. Na K cap. Correct? Okay. So now a very important property of vector. For a vector A A directional. Let's say a directional along the x-axis. Full directional x-axis along the edge. A vector magnitude 10 units. 10 meter. Vector magnitude length. Vector length 10 meter. I'll multiply vector A. Listen very carefully. Very important concept. Very basic but very important, extremely useful. Vector A को multiply करी मु 2 रे. So 2A vector is suppose B vector. 2 multiplied with A vector is giving me B vector. So can someone tell me what is the relation between the magnitudes of B vector and A vector? B vector and A vector magnitude with their relation no. What is the relation between the magnitudes of A vector and B vector? Please answer everyone. I want answers. Participate in the class. As I told you, if you do not interact, then classroom learning has no meaning. B vector is equal to 2A vector. That means magnitude of B, B length means if I find the magnitude of B, that will be twice the magnitude of A. This conclusion is coming from this. B vector is 2 times of A vector. That means B length A double. A length 10 meter, B length 20 meter. Then vector B will be of length 20 meter. If vector A is of length 10 meter. I hope it's clear. Correct? There's another relation also with respect to direction. So what is the relation between the directions of B and A? This we talked about the magnitude. Magnitude A magnitude 10 है, B magnitude 20. So what about the relation between the directions? Are they same? Are they in the same direction or opposite direction? A vector along x-axis achi, A vector along x achi, B direction kora. The A along x achi, what is the direction of B? B will be in the same direction as that of A. What we have multiplied here, a positive scalar. We have multiplied a positive scalar here. Got a positive scalar. Scalar means got a simple quantity, algebraic quantity. Got a positive scalar that area multiply kale. What are getting B vector? That means B vector, A vector will be in the same direction. If I say B vector equals to minus 2A vector, that means now B vector and A vector, B and A are in opposite direction. Note करो भाई समझते हैं. Please note this down. B at opposite direction habo jodi B koibe -2 into A, any minus quantity, any minus, I say B is -half into A, B is -3 into A, any negative quantity multiplied with A, if giving rise to B, that means B over direction of ulta. A hochi positive X-ray, B over negative X-ray. बुझे लगा था? A hochi positive Y ray, B will be along negative Y. Is it clear to everyone? Correct. So B and A will be opposite if this is a negative scalar. B and A will be in the same direction if this is a positive scalar. That's the relation between directions. The conclusion हम draw कर पा रहे हैं, vector है, vector है जो scalar multiply हुए, scalar multiply हुए, that gives rise to another vector. A vector scalar multiply है कौन हुआ? Vector मिले. A same vector है, vector और direction होता है same था. Correct? If it is positive, allowed a positive scalar, then B and A will be in the same direction. If it is negative, then B and A will be in the opposite direction. So, we talked about unit vectors. Unit vector I is a unit vector which is along the positive x-axis. I would a unit vector which is along the positive x-axis. Correct? I have a unit vector which is along the positive x-axis. So I have go. It is a scalar multiply. Scalar multiply. What I am going to get? I am going to get another vector, not a scalar. I have a direction. I have a direction. सही डायरेक्शन में थोड़ा वेक्टर मिलेगा बुझे लगा था हमें क्लियर आई क्या पर जा डायरेक्शन सही डायरेक्शन में गोटे वेक्टर मिलेगा इज दैट क्लियर टू एवरीवन ताले गोटे व्यास मल्टीप्लाई कली मु a cos थीटा कौन गोटे स्केलर कहीं स्केलर यानी a cos थीटा डा कौन है a cos थीटा होची कंपोनेंट ऑफ वेक्टर ए गोटे वेक्टर ए हमें नहीं थिले गोटे वेक्टर ए नहीं थिले ताले वेक्टर ए रा component vector era component होची vector era component होची a cos vector era magnitude वाला a the magnitude वाला a angle is theta so the vector era component वाला a cos theta चलिए cos theta कौन उड़ा scalar को दिया हमें उड़ा vector multiply करेगा what is vector I cap is the vector here I cap is vector unit vector आओगी जो आओ कौन है उड़ा vector उड़ा scalar multiply कर ले कौन मिलेगा आवड़ा vector मिलेगा a vector with a scalar multiply करें कोई vector मिलेगा let me call that ax vector कहीं को ले ax vector कारण से vector direction कौन होगा x axis along the रहेगा why the direction is along x axis why the direction is along x axis कहीं ना I क्या अपना direction भी along the x axis मुझे लगा था I क्या अपना direction भी जब x axis along the अच्छी I क्या भी is along x axis I क्या भी is along x axis ताले a cos theta उड़ा scalar multiplied with I क्या कौन होगा vector तो होगा but तारा direction भी I cap so the same होगा that is along the x-axis. Am I clear? Please let me know everyone. Is this clear to everyone? Yes. Please respond. Correct. A cos theta I cap will be another vector. Okay, very good. A cos theta will be another vector that is ax vector. सेवड़ा हमें कौन करेगा y axis along रे भी हमें component नवा कहते हैं a sin theta होची y axis along रे component correct so a sin theta is y axis along रे component ताको multiply करी इधर multiply that with j cap what is j cap is the unit vector along what y axis और नहीं कहो भाई so y axis along the unit vector थिले temperature कम है y axis along the unit vector थिले j क्या ताको देखो a sin theta multiply करे a sin theta again what a sin theta is a scalar a sin theta कौन भाई a sin theta गोटे scalar तो again गोटे scalar टाको गोटे scalar को vector multiply कर ले कौन मिलेगा again a vector I'll call that a y vector as I'm calling this one ax vector. So what is ax vector? A cos theta I cap. A cos theta into I cap. The direction of which कौन होगा? Direction कौन होगा? I cap direction से तो समान होगा. then I cap direction x-axis is x vector direction be along x-axis. Ay vector direction will be along y-axis because j cap direction is along y-axis. Am I clear? I hope it's clear to everyone. Correct? Now, what is the purpose of doing this? My purpose is to represent a vector in terms of unit vectors, that is I cap and j cap. My purpose is this. This is my purpose. To achieve this purpose, I'm explaining all these things. मुझे लगा था चलो vector A, I'm recapping all this thing, whatever I told. Quickly we are recapping it. Vector the angle theta कुछ x-axis सहित. चलो x-axis along the component अला a cos theta. A cos theta I cap multiply करिए मतलब कोई vector मिलेगा. I'll call that ax vector. Ax vector direction. अब I cap direction कौन होगा? समान होगा. That means along the x-axis. Similarly, मुझे commonly along y-axis कितने मिली वो a sin theta जो multiply करी j क्या पर है? I'll get another vector that is ay vector. Ay vector direction j cap vector direction will be same, that is along the y-axis. मुझे लगा था? Am I clear? Audio आवाज नहीं sir? So you unmute yourself. Sir audio unmute करो दो बेटा. Am I clear? So how do I represent a vector in terms of I and j? After writing all this, how do I represent a vector in terms of I cap and j cap? Can we represent करिएगा? Can we represent? Representation will be done using triangle law of vector addition. Representation will be done using triangle law of vector addition. So what is triangle law of vector addition? Triangle law of vector addition को जी ये theta vector पूरे triangle ला theta side को represent करछन्ति. If two vectors represent two sides of a triangle in the same order, এটা মনে করো p vector হলা আর এটা q vector. আর দুইটা का same order রয়েছে. What do you mean by same order? কোন order মানে কোন? What do you mean by same order? Order মানে जोड़ी गोटे vector सरू जाएगा. Tip of this vector is called tip. Arrowhead or tip. The tip of vector p coincides with the tail of q. Tip of p coincides with the tail of q vector. मुझे लगा था p रा tip और q रा tail are coinciding with each other. Correct? P रा tip और q रा tail यदि coincide करछन, if they are coinciding, they would said to be in the same order. ताले में कहा p vector और q vector कौन छन्ति same order रे छन्ति. Then p vector and q vector are said to be in the same order. Are said to be in the same order. So P अगर the same order है रोइले, P अगर represent two sides of a triangle taken in the same order. So the third side of the triangle, the third side रोइला is the closing side. The closing side of the triangle will be the resultant taken in the opposite order. देख भाई, एटा P Q, एटा मतलब R, तारटा opposite order हवा दरकार. P M दी अच्छी, P it सरला, Q ड आरंभ होला. P it सरला, Q ड आरंभ होला. The R टा to start of a puni. Then I'll say P, Q and R are in the same order. But P और Q जोड़ी सरुची, R रा end भी side सरुची. R रा tip और Q रा tip coincide करछन. R रा tip और Q रा tip coincide. That means R is in the opposite order. That means R is in the opposite order. In the opposite order to P and Q. যদি এটা হলা third side of the triangle, I'm summarizing this. Triangle of the third side represented by R vector in the opposite order. two sides represented by P and Q in the same order, then I say R vector is the resultant of P vector and Q vector. Am I clear? Correct? R vector resultant of P vector and Q vector. R vector equal to P vector plus Q vector. I can say this if P and Q did our same order thive, P and Q same order thive, R to opposite order thive closing side, then R is the resultant of P and Q. I want to ask, is this clear to everyone? Just let me know. I'll ask a question on this. Please let me know if this is clear or not. Everyone, please. Is this clear? Triangle law vector addition is clear? Let me know in the chat box, everyone. Okay. Okay, then let me ask a question. Let me ask a question. This is P, this is Q. Look at the diagram and then answer. Look at the diagram and then answer. Correct? I'll give you a couple of options to choose. Choose the correct option. P plus Q equal to R vector. P plus Q plus R equal to 0. Third option, P plus Q just a minute. P plus Q equal to 2R vector and none of this. None of this. Choose the correct option, please. No, Saroj. First option is not the correct option. No. Answer one, no, no, definitely no. Look at the diagram and then answer. Look at the diagram and then answer. What triangle's law says and what I have given. What triangle's law says and what I have given. Second option. Okay. Why second option? Yes, second option is the correct option here. Second option is the correct option here. Why is it so? भाई P Q R the same order रहेगा. Now P Q and R as per the given diagram. As per the given diagram, P Q and R are in the same order. Same order रहेगा भाई. Are in the same order. If they are in the same order, then R will not be the resultant of P and Q. R cannot be the resultant of P and Q because R is in the same order of P and Q. They are the opposite order of. Then only R will be the resultant of P and Q. R the opposite but R the opposite nahi. Can we make the R opposite? Yes, but that will not be R. It are the R achi. And you turn the y vector. And the vector turn the A vector to R hela. Then A vector kona hova. A vector kona hova. It hova minus R. But the vector the ulta mein kar dova, then minus sign is attached to that. It R hele. It R hele. It kona minus R. So minus R vector. So minus R vector now is in the minus R the opposite order. R the nahi. Minus R is in the opposite order. Minus R in the opposite order to what? P and Q. Minus R opposite achi. I'll call like your minus R vector, you can say, is the resultant of P and Q. Pata bujhela? Third side the resultant of ଯେତେବେଳେ that set ଗୋଟେ vector କୁ represent କରିବ which is in the opposite order to these two vectors. P ଯୋଉଠି ସରିଲା Q ସେଠୁ start ହେଲା, P ଯୋଉଠି ସରିଲା Q ଠୁ start ହେଲା, but Q ଯୋଉଠି ସରିଲା ସେଠୁ ଯଦି R start ହେଇଗଲା ତାହେଲେ R same order ହେଇଗଲା. Q ଯୋଉଠି ସରିଲା ପୁଣି R ବି ସେଇଠି ସରିବା ଦରକାର. ବର୍ତ୍ତମାନ R ଟା ଉଲ୍ଟା ଅଛି, ତାହେଲେ R କୁ ଉଲ୍ଟେଇ ଦେଲେ କଣ ହବ? ଏଟା minus R ହବ, now it will not be R anymore because R is already given. R is this, so this is minus R. तार minus R is in the opposite order. Minus R is opposite order to what? P and Q. That means minus R vector will be the resultant of P vector and Q vector. Am I clear? Minus R is the resultant of P and Q. That means I'll say minus R vector equal to P vector plus Q vector. That means if I'll get to this side, one side, P plus Q plus R equal to 0. Am I clear? Is that clear? Okay. Let me ask one more question on this, then we'll move to the next concept. Correct? Question this is P vector, this is Q, this is Q, this is R, this is A, and this is B. Correct? So similarly, I'm giving you options. Choose the correct options. I'm giving you options. Look at the diagram properly. P vector, Q vector, then this is R vector, this is B vector, this is A vector. Got it? Clear? So I'll give you the options now. Options are, first option, I'm writing the options here. First option is A vector equals to P plus Q minus B. Second option, A vector equals to P plus Q plus B. Third option, minus A vector equal to P plus Q plus B. Fourth option, none of this. Choose the correct option. Choose the correct option, please. Yeah. What answers? Option 2. Third option. Okay, can you tell me the reason why? Whoever is telling second option, please tell me the reason why the second option is the correct one. Yes, second is the correct option. So what's the explanation? Explanation logic is very important. No, option A is not the correct option. Option E is definitely not the correct option. 2 is the correct option. But with the proper answers are only acceptable if you give the proper logic. So what is that? Very clear, very easy question. I can see there are two triangles formed here. Two triangles here. One is the first triangle. Let me name the coordinates here. Let's say this is O and this is A. This is C and this is D. Correct. So we have two triangles here. One is OAC triangle in which OA side is represented by P vector, AC side represented by Q vector. And you can see जोड़े भाई P vector सौरुचि जोड़े P सौरुचि सेटू Q start each. हो ना नहीं? तब P and Q are in the same order. P and Q are in the same order, and you can see R in the opposite order. OC side is represented by R vector. R टा जोड़े C सौरुचि जोड़े Q सौरुचि सेटू पूर्ण को R भी सौरुचि. Tips of these two are coinciding. Tip coincide kale. If I tell coincide kale, the order is not the same. The order has changed. So R is in the opposite order. R tells you opposite order to P and Q. So we can say R vector is equal to P vector plus Q vector. Everyone agreed on this? Bujula also. R vector is the resultant of P vector and Q vector. I can say that. Now we'll again apply the triangles law. In the second triangle, OCD triangle. OCD triangle. OCD triangle is visible. OC triangle देखिए लेवल कौन कहेगा? OC side represented by R vector. R vector जोड़ी सरला, जोड़ी R सरला. सेटू कौन वाला? B start वाला. Yes, is it visible to everyone? जोड़ी R सरला, सेटी B start वाला. That means R and B are in the same order. R and B are in the same order, but is A in the same order? No. Where B has ended, so B is origin, A and T and B coincide করছে. That means A is in the opposite order. A is in the opposite order to R and B. A is in the opposite order to R and B. So I'll say, again applying triangles law, I'll say R plus B is equal to what? A. Then A will be the resultant of R and B. And R is already the resultant of P and Q, isn't it? R is the resultant of P and Q, equation 1, and A is the resultant of R and B, equation 2. Combining the two equations together, R value substitute कर दिए. R value substitute कर दिए भाई. कितना सी वो? R is P plus Q. So P plus Q plus B equal to what? A. मुझे लगा था P plus Q in place of R. All right. P plus Q in place of R. B will remain as such A. So this is the correct option. I hope I'm clear. I hope I'm clear on this. Please, everyone, let me know. I think it's very clear. It must be very clear to everyone. Correct? Is that clear? Okay. Thank you, Saroj. Moving ahead. The concept is there. Very important concept again. Translation of vector. Translation of vectors. Okay. Thank you, sir. Translation of vectors. Translation means English to Hindi translation, no. It's not English to Hindi translation. Translation in physics and the balance of physics, it is a linear motion or a movement. Translation means a linear movement. Translation means in the balance of physics, it is a linear movement. Santi, yeah, please tell me. Yes, Santi, tell me what you want to ask. What about you? What's your chat box? Okay, come here. Okay, linear movement. Translation means linear movement. Again, a very important concept. So, what is linear movement? What is linear movement? Linear movement माने माने गोटे वेक्टर सबले कौन था गोटे origin था गोटे starting point था और एक tip था let the गोटे वेक्टर अच्छी वेक्टर ए that starts from point O गोटे वेक्टर point O रू start करची not translation बेटा translation not translation माने linear motion मु सेटा ही बुझो I'm just explaining that है just a minute translation माने linear motion गोटे वेक्टर अच्छी वेक्टर गोटे origin थी that would be origin or starting point अगर मैं टेल भी कहेगा origin और टेल कहूंगा टिप ऑफ वेक्टर ହେଲା वेक्टर एमडी अच्छी लेट्स से गोटे एक्स एक्सिस सहित 60 डिग्री एंगल करूଛି वेक्टर मैग्नीट्यूड माने लेंथ देला लेट्स से 10 मीटर ट्रांसलेशन इज एन ऑपरेशन माने गोटे प्रोसेस ऑपरेशन माने मेडिकल ऑपरेशन रहे ऑपरेशन माने गोटे प्रोसेस ट्रांसलेशन होची गोटे प्रोसेस केमता प्रोसेस भाई प्रोसेस टा हला प्रोसेस इन व्हिच we can change the origin of the vector from one point to another vector टा को हमें कौन करिवो origin टा को हमें शिफ्ट कर परिवो origin टा आईडी अछि we can change the origin from some any other point origin टा को हमें change कर परिवो but not randomly change କରିବା ପାଇଁ କିଛି condition ଅଛି କଣ condition ହେଲା vector ନା magnitude ବଦଳିବ ନା direction ବଦଳିବ ନା magnitude ବଦଳିବ ନା direction ବଦଳିବ ତା ମାନେ ମୁଁ କହି ପାରିବି just imagine like ଗୋଟେ ଖେଳନା ଅଛି ଏମିତି ଗୋଟେ ଖେଳନା ଅଛି ତାର ହେଲା origin ଏଟା starting point ଗୋଟେ ଆରୋ ଭଳିଆ ଅଛି ଏଟାକୁ ଧରିଲେ ହାତରେ ଏଠୁ ବାହାର କରି ଏମିତି ରଖିଦେଲେ ଏଠୁ ବାହାର କରିକି ଏମିତି ରଖିଦେଲେ that means you draw another vector here the original O dash but then एटा भी ହେଲା A vector if this is A vector then एटा भी A vector then एटा भी A vector हबो यदि यार length और यार length समान यार length केते अछि 10 मीटर यार length 10 अछि यदि यार length भी मु कहबी केते 10 मीटर यार length भी समान और ये जेति की एंगल अछि केते एंगल को 60 डिग्री whatever angle this is making if this is also making the same angle whatever angle this is making if this also make the same angle then I'll say this vector is also represented by this vector what we have done we have just shifted the origin we have just shifted or translated the origin listen carefully shifting माने कौन translation माने move कर देले origin टा को move कर देले एटू सेठी की move कर देले बुझियो जी कथा we have shifted or translated the origin प्रज्ञेश कौन गले हैंड रेज कर दे कोई भी था Pragnesh, write in the chat box. What do you want to write? Please write in the chat box. Pragnesh, if any doubt is there, then you can write in the chat box. Huh? If you have any doubt, you can write in the chat box. Not transition, translation. Not transition. I told you, no, it's not transition. The word is translation. ODR Hindi translation. Translation माने linear. Translation माने linear movement. कौन? Linear movement. Correct? बुझे लगा था? ताले যদি এটা angle 60 করছি এটা भी angle 60 কলা ইয়ার length 10 ଅଛି এটা भी 10 ହେଲା ଏ ସବୁ ଜିନିଷ ସମାନ ରହିଲା magnitude ସମାନ ରହିଲା 10 out 10 direction ସମାନ ରହିଲା direction ମାନେ କ'ଣ angle ବି ସମାନ ହେଲା then I say I can translate the vector from here to here the origin ଟାକୁ ଆମେ ଏଇଠୁ ଏଠିକି shift କରିପାରିବା ତମେ ଏଟା ଯଦି vector A ଅଛି ଏଇଟା ବି vector A ହବ This vector, this will also be vector A, this will also be vector A, this is vector A. So this phenomena is known as translation of vectors. That means shifting the origin of a vector, shifting the origin of a vector without changing the magnitude or direction. Am I clear? I hope it is correct. Let's move ahead. Next one. Why did I talk about translation? Because I told you, let me recap the things what I've done for you till now. What is the recap? That I told, if there is a vector A, got a vector A achi, there are magnitude A, magnitude mane length, magnitude A, angle ko mane karo theta, edala x-axis, tale x-axis along there is a vector component kete ala, x-axis along component ala A cos theta, A cos theta, तो ये cos theta को मैं I क्या अपने multiply कर ली, I क्या अपने multiply कर ली, मतलब कौन मिल रहा out a vector, AX vector, जो vector का direction same as what, I क्या is along x-axis, AX vector is also along x-axis. Similarly, I resolve the component, I resolve into the component along y-axis, कौन वाला theta, A sin theta, A sin theta multiplied with J क्या is giving me what, another vector that is AY vector. AY vector direction A, AY vector direction और J क्या direction कौन समान मुझे लगा था AX vector along x-axis, AX vector is along x-axis, AY vector is along what? AY vector is along y-axis मुझे लगा था AX vector is along x, AY vector is along y. So either the AY vector, I'm asking, I want to ask you, maybe you listen carefully. Either the AY vector, can I translate this AY vector from here to here? AY vector कौन है? AY vector origin कोटा एटा point ओ मतलब कोई ओ नहीं मैं आउट पॉइंट पर शिफ्ट कर दी पारी कि यस ए ओ ना है तो बर्तन आउट पॉइंट शिफ्ट कर दी पारी यस आई कैन डू दैट तो ए पॉइंट वाला मनकर ओ डैश कौन गली मु वेक्टर जेती की मैग्नीट्यूड अछि जेती की अछि लेंथ मु सेती की रखी कौन गली शिफ्ट कर देली तो एटा द AY vector yes this will also be AY vector I can do that 90 degree ଅଛି along y axis ସେଇ 90 degree ରଖିଲି ଏ ଲାଇନ୍ ଟା ବି କଣ 90 ଏ ଆଙ୍ଗେଲ ଟା ବି କଣ 90 ବୁଝି ହଉଛି ଭାଇ ସମସ୍ତଙ୍କୁ tell me everyone ଏ ଆଙ୍ଗେଲ ଟା ବି କେତେ 90 ଏଇଟା x vector ଏଇଟା ହେଲା x vector ଏଇଟା x vector ଏଇଟା କଣ ହେଲା ay vector ତ ଏଇଟା କଣ a vector now come to triangle's law vector addition what says what triangle law कौन कହୁଛି भाई triangle law says what triangle law कहुଛି if one vector represent one side x vector कौन देख भाई x vector start होची origin ରୁ ସରୁଛି କୋଉଠି start होची origin ରୁ ସରୁଛି କୋଉଠି ଏଇଠି ସରିଲା ଓଡା ଆସେ ସରିଲା ଯୋଉଠି x vector ସରିଲା ସେଇଠୁ a vector start ହେଲା vector start ହେଲା ତାମାନେ ax vector represents one side ay vector represents another side ax represents one side ay vector represents another side in the same order जोड़ी x सरीला सेठी y start ହେଲା and ax and ay vector are in the same order दिटा same order ରହିଲେ x ay ताहले a vector कोन हबो a vector वर्तन कोन अछि तार opposite order रे अछि x सरला एठी ay सरला एठू ay एठू पुणी start ହେଇथांदा a vector ताले a कोन opposite order ହେଇथांदा A would be in the opposite order, but A is in the same order. So A टा कौन होची वर्तमान opposite order रे होची. देखो I'm repeating again. Ax is like this. जोड़ी x सरीला सेठी y start होला. जोड़ी y सरीला सेठी A start ହେଇथांदा. ताले A would be in the same order. A कौन ହେଇथांदा same order रे ହେଇथांदा. पण A same order रे होची कि no. A is in the what? Opposite order. A जोड़ी सरुची सेठी ay भी सरुची. Deductive coincide করছি তার মানে a vector is in the opposite order to x vector and a vector a vector in the opposite order to x vector and a vector তাহলে a vector equals to कौन करी भाई ax vector plus a vector कोई भी और नहीं कहो जल्दी x vector plus a vector दिशा का resultant will be what a vector just now हम धीरे प्रॉब्लम सॉल्व करछे तापरे ax vector a vector resultant कौन हवा a vector हवा yes tell me please respond everyone please respond a vector is x vector plus a vector is it correct तो x में कौन लिखियो x vector में कौन लिखियो a cos theta A cos theta I cap plus A में कौन लिखियो A sin theta J cap A cos theta I cap A cos theta I cap. Very good, very good. Thank you, thank you. A cos theta I cap plus A sin theta J cap. मुझे लगा था this is the representation of a vector in terms of unit vector. Extremely important concept. Representation of a vector in terms of unit vector. it is unit vector भाई I cap and J cap. I cap and J cap are what? Unit vectors along x and y. The I cap is multiplied with A cos theta. What is A cos theta? Component of A cos theta is a component of vector A along x-axis. What is A sin theta? A sin theta is a component of vector A along y-axis. So vector A component x along जो component रहेगा x along जो component रहेगा ताकू I cap ने multiply कर लो. What is I cap? Unit vector along x. X axis along the component ताकू unit vector along x ने multiply कर लो plus y axis along the component को y component को multiplied with the unit vector along y, that is j cap. So A cos theta I plus A sin theta j. A cos theta I plus A sin theta j is the complete representation of vector A in terms of I cap and j cap. Am I clear? Correct. Now, why did I talk about all this? My purpose was to define the position vector. But a particle 8 thile, the particle 8 achieve jagare. So with respect to a coordinate system, what a coordinate system achi, it x-axis and y-axis. Hala. So each vector join kariva origin with the particle. That will be called what? The position vector of the particle denoted by r vector. Position vector denoted by r vector. And the r vector magnitude r, khali r माने magnitude. Angle डाला theta. The period perpendicular drop कर भाई. Let the put of perpendicular is m. Put of perpendicular is m. Then what this OM will be? OM कहता है भाई. Will OM be r cos theta? And r will be called a vector. R will be called a vector. Vector টা করছে angle theta. তাহলে x axis along the component कहता है r cos theta. Cos theta is this by r. Cos theta is this by r. So this will be what? R cos theta. Similarly, sin theta will be this by r. So this will be what? R sin theta. Am I clear? This will be r sin theta and this will be r cos theta. मुझे लगा था r sin theta कौन हो? R sin theta vector r y component. मुझे लगा था vector r y component. A vector r x component कहते हैं r cos theta. देखो सर y component तो y axis along रहा कहता है. Yes, y axis along रहा कहता. Y axis along रहा कहता. But what we have done? We have translated the vector from here to here. We have translated the vector from here to here. मुझे लगा था translate the vector from here to here. তাহলে এই vectorটা কোন হলো? r sin theta টা গো মানে কোভিটা ট্রান্সলেট করছে r sin theta multiply করতে হলে কোন দিরে j cap রে r sin theta multiplied with j cap will give me what? ry vector. ry vector. R cos theta multiplied with r cos theta. R cos theta multiplied with I cap will give me what? Rx vector. Is that clear? R cos theta multiplied with I cap will give me Rx vector. R sin theta multiplied with j cap will give me Ry vector. Am I clear? चलो मैं कौन कोई भी बताओ R vector कौन R vector टा होची triangle रो third side in the opposite order. A और B माने P और Q माने कौन Rx vector এটা হলো Rx vector এটা হলো Ry vector বুঝিও যে কথা এটা Rx vector Ry vector Rx and Ry are in the same order. Rx are in the same order. R is in the opposite order. So R is the resultant of Rx and Ry. Rx vector plus Ry vector. Rx vector is what? R cos theta into I cap plus Ry is R sin theta into j cap. ए r cos theta ମୁଁ କଣ କହିପାରିବ? What is any alternative name? r cos theta ଗୋଟେ ନାଁ ଅଛି କି? r cos theta ର ଗୋଟେ ଅଲଗା ନାଁ ଅଛି କି? Is there any name, different name of r cos theta? Yes, କଣ ନାଁ ଅଛି? କଣ ନାଁ ଅଛି ବାବା? ନାଁ ଅଛି x coordinate ରହ ନା ନାଇଁ କହ? ଏ ଯୋଉ r cos theta ଏଇଟା x coordinate ହବ ନା ନାଇଁ? କଣ କହିଥିଲି? Distance, perpendicular distance from y, ଏଇଟା y axis, y axis perpendicular डालले भाई, p perpendicular पकीचे एटी, देख भाई p को perpendicular पकीचे, ତାହେଲେ p in distance ଟା କଣ? p in ଟା ହେଲା perpendicular distance from y axis, p in ଯେତିକି r cos theta ସେତିକି ନା, p in ଯେତିକି r cos theta ସେତିକି, ତାହେଲେ p in ଟା କଣ? p in ଟା ହେଲା x coordinate, ମାନେ denoted by x only. x coordinate को हमें कौन करे? x coordinate को हमें represent करे खाली x रे, तो r cos theta equal to x, so x into I क्या मुझे लगा था plus r sin theta similarly कौन होगा? r sin theta, you can see here r sin theta will be what? The y coordinate मान distance from perpendicular distance from x axis ଅଛି ନା ନାହିଁ? ଏଟା x axis perpendicular distance କେତେ? r sin theta, ଏଟା କଣ କହିବୁ? y, so x I क्या plus y j क्या. If a particle has a x coordinate as x, so the particle x coordinate is x achi, y coordinate y achi, then the position vector is represented in terms of position vector r is represented in terms of x coordinate and y coordinate as like this, x I cap plus y j cap. Extremely useful concept. मुझे लगा था x I cap plus y j cap is the value of what? R vector. Got it? Clear. Moving ahead, the origin of what is the genesis of all this discussion? Who start करते भाई? Start हमें करते from where? From the definition of displacement vector. Displacement vector define करिया भाई. We started all this discussion. So displacement vector is what? Please write down everyone. Displacement vector is the change in position vector. Displacement vector is the change in position vector of a particle when a particle moves from some initial point to some final point. The initial point or a final point particle move from one point to another. ताले जो change आसिबो position vector जो change होगा, extremely useful definition. The change in the position vector, underline this, highlight this. Change in the position vector, this is nothing but the displacement vector. Correct? Let us find it like this. Suppose I'll say, got it? Noted everyone? Please take note of this, everyone. Change in the position vector is the displacement vector. The actual most appropriate definition of displacement vector. Most appropriate definition of displacement vector. Correct? The change in the position vector. Let us go ahead. This. Later, Vartaman will find a mathematical expression for this. Let this be the origin. This is x-axis, this is y-axis, correct? Now, let's say, for a particle point, let's say, time you're looking at the watch, time a particle let's say at the initial point I. What is initial point I? Particle P is at initial point I. There are coordinates x1, y1. x1, y1. So, to join if I join it with a what? A vector, initial position vector can initial point initial position vector denoted by ri vector, initial position vector denoted by ri vector particular editilla ichara ସବୁ ସମୟ ଗୋଟେ ଜାଗା ରହିବ ଥୋଡି ହେଲା ichara the particle moved from its initial position to a final position particle କିଛି ସମୟ ପରେ ଆସିକି ଏଠି ପହଞ୍ଚିଗଲା the particle arrived here at some final point ହେଲା at some final point the initial ରୁ final को join କରିବା वाला vector जोटा एटा कौन कहबा हमें displacement vector initial और final को join करवा vector कौन कहबा displacement vector denoted by s vector displacement रो दीटा definition vector connecting initial with the final point the vector connecting initial with the final point directed from initial to final is also displacement vector and also displacement vector is defined as the change in the position vector when a particle moves from some initial point to final point the particle to initial or final point move kariba change in position vector को भी displacement vector कहबा and also कौन initial और final को join कर दिया वाला vector directed कौन initial रू final देखो tail कोडी अछि initial रे tip कोडी अछि final रे initial to final not from final to initial is that clear तो एटा को join कर लेबा origin टा को या संग join कर दबा what will be this will be final position vector over or not extremely important thing eta kono bhai final position vector eta initial position vector ri eta kono final position vector rf eta kono bhai as per the definition eta hala displacement vector as per the definition what is this displacement vector so let us verify जो instead of a statement का कोई displacement vector is the change in the position vector is that correct or not let us verify that very simple we are constituting a right angle triangle और triangle में theory कर ले OIF triangle तो triangle रे दे भाई OI side represented by RI vector IF side represented by S vector are they in the same order जोड़ी भाई RI search say do S start isn't it look carefully and tell me जोड़ी RI सरला S start हला RF भी से start ହେଇଥାନ୍ତା then RIS or RF तीनटा कौन ହେଇଥାନ୍ତା same order ହେଇଥାନ୍ତା RIS and RF in the same order triangles law is not applicable but you can see now RF in the opposite order RF कौन होइबा opposite ଅଛି RF ର tip और S ର tip कौन ଅଛି coincide କରୁଛି RF ର tip और S ର tip coincide କରୁଛି that's why RF is in the opposite order कौन कहबे RF in the opposite order to कौन RI vector and S vector isn't it बुझला कथा तम कौन कहबे then RI vector और S vector resultant क्या होगा RA vector होगा ना नहीं RI और S resultant कौन होगा RA vector होगा कहना RI vector और S vector same order रहले and RF in the opposite order then A theta resultant RI vector S vector resultant must be what RF vector isn't it so that implies S vector equal to RF vector minus RF is that clear now if I say initial point has a coordinate x1 comma y1 initial point has a coordinate x1 comma y1 final point has a coordinate में कहबा कहते हैं x2 comma y2 just now we had talked about representation of position vector in terms of x and y coordinate ଗୋଟେ point of the coordinate x comma y ଅଛି x comma y ଅଛି ଆମେ କଣ କହୁଛୁ r vector is x I cap plus y j cap the coordinate x1 comma y1 ଅଛି ଆମେ କଣ କହିବା r I vector will be equal to x1 I cap plus y1 j cap isn't it x y जगह कौन आएगा x1 और y1 similarly can I say RF vector will be x2 I cap plus y2 j cap can I say that x2i plus y2j बुझला कथा x1i plus y1j x2i plus y2j कहीं यहाँ पर एक्स्ट्रा वैल्यू कहते हैं x1 y वैल्यू y1 यहाँ पे x value x2, y value y2, isn't it? तो बर्तमान just substitute these values here. তাহলে x vector আমরা কখন করলে x vector হবে rf minus ri, and we have the values of rf and ri here. We have the values of rf and ri here. So let's substitute these values and we'll get an expression for the displacement vector in terms of the coordinates. कौन लिखा भाई? rf टा कौन आसला? rf टा कौन आसीबो? rf is लिखा है जेटी x2i plus y2j, और नहीं x2i plus y2j minus ri आटा कौन x1i minus वाला आटी x1i plus y1j कौन है? Similar terms अच्छी i और i, similar terms अच्छी i and i, similar terms अच्छी i and i, ताले कौन है गलाटा x2 minus x1 i क्या है ना? i की i अच्छी टी i अच्छी, there's a minus here, x2 minus x1 i plus एडला y2 ला minus y1 आसीबो, y2 minus y1 कौन j, मुझे लगा था a very very useful expression for कौन displacement पाए हमें कोई बेरिबा गोटे पार्टिकल એટલે गोटे इनिशियल पॉइंट टू फाइनल पॉइंट मूव करছে, इनिशियल पॉइंट कोऑर्डिनेट x1, y1, फाइनल पॉइंट कोऑर्डिनेट के x2, y2, ताले हमें कोई डिस्प्लेसमेंट वेक्टर in terms of unit vector will be x2 minus x1 I cap, x2 minus x1 I cap plus y2 minus y1 j cap. See here, x2 minus x1 I cap plus y2 minus y1 j cap. Am I clear? Is that clear? Correct? So let me ask you a question. With this question, we will end this class. But a particle move from a point, initial point I to a final point F. Initial point of coordinate 2, minus 3. And final point of coordinate 5, 3. Correct? 2, minus 3, it is moving to 5, 3. So my question is, find the magnitude of displacement vector. मतलब वेक्टर तो करना है, मतलब कौन दरकार? मतलब वेक्टर तो करना है भाई, मतलब कौन दरकार? मतलब दरकार magnitude of, find the magnitude of the displacement vector. Please answer everyone. This will take 2 minutes. 1 minute also is fine. The answer in 1 minute. Find the magnitude of the displacement vector. Please answer. We'll leave the class with this. We'll wind up the class with this. So the last question. This is x2 minus x1. This is x2 and this is y2. This is x1 and this is y1. What is this called? x2 minus x1 I, x2 minus x1 I क्या? तो कौन है? 5 minus 2 ही. x2 is 5, x1 is 2. 5 minus 2 कहते हैं 3. 3 I क्या? Plus y2 minus y1. y2 कहते हैं 3. y1 is minus 3. Be careful here. Be careful. y1 कहते हैं minus 3. तो 3 minus 3 में minus 3 0 हो भाई. 3 minus minus 3. 3 minus minus 3 कहते हैं 3 plus 3 that is 6. 6 j क्या? मुझे लगा था 3i क्या plus 6j क्या? ता मानेगा को जोड़े वेक्टर में लगेला 3i क्या plus 6j क्या? जोड़े i क्या से तो मल्टीप्लाई है, और i क्या से मल्टीप्लाई है सेटा कौन को x कंपोनेंट, और i क्या से मल्टीप्लाई है x कंपोनेंट, सेटा j से तो मल्टीप्लाई सेटा y कंपोनेंट. गोटे वेक्टर ऐसे जी तमरा I can say এটা s vector হলে s vector x component এটা যে x axis হলা understand this এটা x axis হলা এই যে x component কেতে আসিব 3 আর y component কেতে আসিব 4 sorry 6 y component is how much 6 জানাই তাহলে বাবা y component 6 because sir y component y along রে আসিব ভাই y along রে আসিব but I can translate the vector এইটা y হলে এইটা y হলে এইটা be y y কেতে আছে বাবা y হচ্ছে 6 কেতে আছে y হচ্ছে 6 এইটা 6 হলে এইটা be 6 অন নাই কো বুঝলা কথা এটা 6 হলে এটা be 6 এটা 3 x component 3 3 y component 6 কোডু আসলা x2 minus x1 I cap just now derived the expression x2 minus x1 I cap plus y2 minus y1 j cap 5 minus 2 3 I cap plus 3 y2 minus y1 minus 3 3 minus 3 6 j cap am I clear yes so 3 square plus 6 square whole square root কারণ এটা কোন হলো বর্তমান ম্যাগনিটিউড তো ভেক্টর হবে এটা কোন হলো হাইপোটেনিউস এর দিন ডালা বেস ডালা পারপেন্ডিকুলার the perpendicular square plus base square whole square root is the length of hypotenuse হলো নাই তো আন্ডার রুট কোন আছে হবে 3 স্কয়ার 9 প্লাস 4 স্কয়ার কত 36 36 that is not kete 45 the square root 45 root 45 is the magnitude of the displacement vector जो क्वेश्चन पूछा था आंसर वाला कितने root 45 am I clear to everyone am I clear please answer with this we are going to wind up the class okay very good thank you Saroj okay so I hope Krista I'm able to impart you some little bit of knowledge what you didn't know earlier Krista मतलब knowledge रहे I could able to enhance your knowledge by a little margin in order I will wind up the class and for the next class keep studying keep blogging bye bye I'll sign off thank you very much okay thank you for everyone okay I'll end the class now good afternoon everyone am I visible and audible please write in the chat box a chat again no sir why no yes like that yes is am I visible and audible to you everyone please tell me okay okay let's start then. Okay, today's session is on velocity time position time graph
Recording in progress. Recording in